just putting up a map here. This will help you guys navigate your own research into what they're doing in your child's school, because a lot of the programs, different tech programs are offered in different schools for different age groups. But how many people here have kids on Chromebooks?
My grandkids.
Yes, okay, so there's an agenda behind the Chromebook in particular. And it actually started back in 2017 when they rolled out a test. My daughter came home and said that Facebook created a curriculum for her. And she had her own little Chromebook, and when the kids log into their curriculum, only the kids are seeing it. So if your child's on a Chromebook, you're not seeing all the curriculum that's loaded on there. And I appreciate your guys' fight with the books, and but I will tell you, on the Chromebooks, it doesn't matter what laws are passed in the state of Kentucky, the curriculum and content on that Chromebook is controlled by the tech companies. It is not controlled by the state, it's not controlled by your teacher or the county. So that's one way to hide exactly what curriculum is happening. Papers aren't coming home so the parents can review what the children are learning. The other alarming part was they actually sent all of our teachers off to Facebook headquarters to learn how to be mentors instead of teachers. They were actually taught not to teach our kids, that the curriculum is embedded with the textbooks, YouTube videos, their quizzes, their tests, everything's in the Chromebook. So this is a push coming from multiple directions. The Zuckerberg, Chan, and Gates foundations are all wanting your kids on the Chromebooks to learn from the Chromebooks, eliminating the teacher's interaction. As a matter of fact, Boone County Schools submitted a waiver request that year asking for teachers' aides to lead digital curriculum instead of teachers. So you have, someone who's not skilled in education, and then you have every child on an individual device. There's really not a lot of overseeing what's happening and what's coming across the screens for these kids. So here is where we've addressed the Chromebooks and all the research that goes around the Chromebooks, as far as the data mining, which is under the guise of personalized learning. So they're taking your child's data and they're running it through analytics and algorithms. And this is going to lead to what they're implementing now called dashboards. So let's see. Another issue is you're not getting informed consent from the parents, because how many of you guys know who is getting your child's data and who has access to it?
Nobody does.
Okay, so this is just an example. One program called Blackboard. Anytime anything's sent home and it says privacy terms and condition, click on it. Read what it is, what company pops up. I did this with a program that my son's school uses called Blackboard. What popped up is a company called Anthology. Well, if you go to Anthology's partnerships, they have hundreds of global partnerships that get all these kids' data, because you can click on those and it tells you that they're using it with the Blackboard app. These companies, a lot of them weren't even in the United States. How do you know what they're doing with your child's data, what they're collecting, if it's secure? And we'll get into that in a minute as well. This is their vision. This is what the dashboards are all about, and this is the data that they want on your child. Everything from their faith, business, which is a workforce pipeline, whether they go to higher education, social services, the educators' families, school leaders, district leaders. This is all the information they want on your child, but also the places they're going to get the information on your child to plug this into a dashboard. This is an example of the dashboard. We got this from Panorama Ed, which Boone County Schools is using Panorama, which is owned by Merrick Garland's son-in-law. Yep. And also venture capitalists, and then you have the nonprofit foundations from Zuckerberg, Gates, Hewlett-Packard, tech companies like that. But you guys were talking about SEL. That is one of the criteria that they're going to monitor continuously, scoring your child. The red scores are where they're going to add intervention. That's when they bring in the counselor. Your child's not woken up.
Wow.
So that's something else you guys should know, is they're trying to get away from state assessments and come up with individual districts doing their own measurements. And so you can find this also on Panorama Ed. The other issue that we've noticed since 2020, and this actually comes from a government website, the GAO.gov, which is Government Accountability Office. Again, it's on the map, and we'll put the map up for you guys if you want to take pictures of it, so you can add your own stuff to it or just even look up and verify the information we're giving you. but the number one target for cybersecurity attacks is K through 12 education since the year 2020. Well, what did we do in 2020?
Yeah.
We had a pandemic and put every kid on a Chromebook, which
That's right.
has always been the agenda, by the way, as far back as 2014. This is their global education agenda. It is through the Chromebooks because they can control the information that the children are getting. They can control the narrative, test them on the narrative, and create what's called a global hive mind. And then if you don't think the way you're supposed to be thinking, you're red flagged on the dashboard. Yesterday, Jill and I picked up 9,100 pages of tech contracts with Boone County schools that we still have to go through, and we will be podcasting on that later. However, when I was flipping through, I actually saw this. It says school officials and teachers are authorized under COPA to provide consent on behalf of parents. Therefore, Imagine Learning does not obtain parental consent direct. So they're not even asking for your consent to take your child's information. And actually, I was surprised to see that because most of the contracts are usurping parental consent by the school boards making the tech companies agents of the school, as if they're school employees. Therefore, they don't have to get parental consent. So that's very brazen.
Yeah.
And that's not true also. So that's a problem. COPA actually requires parental consent for collecting, using, or disclosing personal information for children under age 13. So PII, personally identifiable information. Did you guys know your kids aren't supposed to be identifiable while they're online? So how's your child log into their Chromebook? It's first dot, last name, at child school. I don't know if they can identify them.
Yeah.
Especially since they're housing them with their information on the dashboards. And then FERPA is another privacy. This one actually gives you an opportunity to review the records that they have on your child, and you can correct anything that's not correct on their dashboard. And then PPRA, this one is, do you guys know if your kids are taking surveys? You probably don't because they don't ask you, which is also a violation of the law. You're supposed to be notified if your kids are getting surveys. You're allowed to opt out. They should be sending opt-out forms home. What I have seen with my child's school is they don't even send me the survey. So I just blanket, he's not to take any surveys under PPRA. I have the right to refuse. Okay, so we did a records request for Boone County's strategic plan because this is the dashboard that they're implementing, but they don't want to tell anybody they're implementing it. They're doing what's called manufactured consent, where this is the presentation our superintendent goes around and shows everybody to get them on board, and they create fake councils with hand-picked people on them to act like they're collaborating. I want to point out with this strategic plan was first developed by Jason Glass, our education commissioner. He started, it's called Portrait of a Graduate in Colorado. And Boone County Schools has changed the name of it a couple of times. Because when we were on to the Portrait of a Graduate, they changed it to Profile of a Graduate, which sounds way worse.
Yeah.
Schools is talking about that.
Yeah, and now they're
They're
on to,
everywhere.
it's just a strategic plan, so they won't even call it by its name.
It's not on the website anymore.
Right, 404 page not found.
Really?
Now, yes. So Jason Glass worked with Tony Wagner, who wrote the Gates Foundation Education Agenda, to create the Portrait of a Graduate, which is a profile of your graduate. One of the things I would like to point out about all of this data is we have sat through seminars hosted by Microsoft where they're talking about we need to educate kids as young as pre-K and kindergarten that they have a digital DNA or a digital footprint, that anything that's been made digital is a record that's there forever. And I'm thinking, my son's in 5th grade, he's not gonna grasp forever on a digital record. But then also, we don't have records that go back forever that you can pull up. I mean, I can't even imagine what that's gonna do to kids as they get older, that you can pull something up from pre-K and it's something they ran through analytics so they can predict outcomes for your child and direct them through workforce or direct them through pipelines, whether it's military, this corporation, they're gonna use that for directing your child in the future. Okay, so he goes through the fluff of how great our district is. That's what all this portion is. 63 languages are spoken in our schools, by the way. Oh, what are your hopes and dreams and aspirations for our children? So then they're gonna talk about competencies, mindsets, and skills, because they have to route you down a certain path to get you to say certain things. Be like, we're gonna measure that. That's our new measurement. Because they wanna move away from the actual assessments and accountability. So they wanna talk about, you wanna clarify and define what characteristics you want of graduates. Again, most of this is leaning towards social emotional measurements. Like they're talking about empathy. Like you're gonna be graded on empathy when you come out. That's on the dashboard.
There's a movie about this.
So here's one of the design teams of all the hand-picked people who got to have a say in this for their manufactured consent. And they will grab their people from county, state, local government, faith-based nonprofits, business, and industry. We did have one of our members from the local issues committee attend, and he was talking to people as well, and they're like, we don't understand what this is for. Like, we're not understanding the assignment. Okay, they met 4 times over 3 months, over 600 person hours. So then, this is who he's presented to, Judge Moore, business leaders. So this isn't a presentation to make you think and get your buy-in, like these people are with us. These people agree with us. So here it is called Portrait of a Graduate.
Yeah.
Mind you, they've taken it down. So communication is going to be one of the measurements. Collaborator, okay? Learner's mindset. Embrace curiosity. So global citizenship.
Oh my goodness.
Get me going.
This is actually a class that they have even at elementary school and Boone County schools. And that's where they're addressing the digital citizenship, digital IDs, how to behave online, your digital footprint, what your digital identity is, even having them like look up people online so they can see what that looks like. Integrity, well, we do like that, but they need examples followed by. So world-class education, again, that's global education. Empowered workforce is actually a workforce pipeline. So this information is going to be shared with corporations so they can pipeline our kids into the jobs. You're going to hear the schools talk constantly about stakeholders. You're not the stakeholders. Stakeholder capitalism proposes that corporations should serve the interests of all their stakeholders and not just shareholders. So stakeholders include investors, owners, employees, vendors, customers, general public at large. Your child and their data is a commodity. It's not your child. They aren't doing this for you or the parents. The parents are never mentioned when they talk about stakeholders. It's how your child can serve the community or corporations at large. So what Jill and I did is we created an opt-out form because those contracts that the schools send home that they tell your child, get this filled out and send it back and we'll give you 20 minutes extra recess. We actually don't have to fill those out. You can read through them, mark out things that you don't agree to. Do not sign anything that you don't agree to. And then we created our own document on the first day of school that we sent in with our children, which basically tells them that we're not consenting to any data mining of our kids. And you can tell the schools that you either, so this is what I did with my son. I said, I don't care if he uses a Chromebook, but he is not allowed to log in with personally identifiable information. So the teacher has to log in with her credentials for him to utilize anything on the Chromebook. You can opt out of the surveys by exercising your PPRA rights, but we have a list. You can make your own. I make my own email. I'm very nice to the principal. I want to work with them on everything. A lot of times, what we don't realize is that they're putting the teachers under the same things. When they're data mining their kids, they're data mining our teachers. In machine learning, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term. We just did an episode with Jerry on this. The machine learning is where the machine are learning the children or the teachers. And then deeper learning, which you'll hear a lot, where you think that the deeper learning is being offered to your child to get a better education. That's actually better quality data to run through the analytics. But they're data mining our teachers to replace them, essentially. There have been 2 programs at my son's school this year where they've gotten grants for the teachers to record their classrooms so that they can scale the teachers' lessons. You can find more information, and we're gonna be podcasting on the 9,000 pages of tech contracts through our schools. Oh, yes.
I have a question, because Bellevue school districts, with their forms, they will not give you an opt-out form, but they'll put real small at the bottom of other forms that you have to do kind of the tech stuff, and so when you fill them out and you sign them, you send them in and it already gives them permission to do it.
Don't sign them.
Yeah, so I've just been telling parents not to sign them at all.
So our user agreements, what they're called, doesn't even address any data whatsoever. It's basically you break it, you buy it, but I don't sign the form at all. I rarely sign anything they send home. I make my own form, and sometimes I even, like on this form we have where they need to sign it, acknowledging it. Honestly,
They're trying to trick parents though,
Right.
to do that, and
Yeah.
that's what parents need to be aware of. They're tricking you with little small document at some on different forms just to trick you, so they have to say they have the permission.
And
Right.
the
And that's
children
important for
shouldn't-
parents to know.
And the children shouldn't be signing anything in their,
Correct.
Oh,
my
yeah.
high schooler, he received contracts or syllabus from each teacher, and he had to sign each one of them.
Yep.
He's not 18, he's not signing anything, and I sent it back.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, when you bring up the global citizen, everybody's heard the word sustainable and sustainability that they've been talking about lately. That's all goes to the 17 sustainability goals of Agenda 2030, which all of us is part of.
global education.
And I've seen like, and I know Myrna, you've seen this, Bellevue was posting pictures of, yeah, we're teaching the kids about this.
Yeah.
And then the stakeholder capitalism is being pushed by the World Economic Forum as part of the Great Reset. So this all goes into a big globalist push to brainwash our kids.
Yeah.
We have that there. It's also coming from the RAND Corporation,
Right.
which is the DC think tank.
Yeah.
They work with them as well. Like, if you guys wanna take a picture of this map, and then you can plug in any of the programs. When you go to the particular program you're looking up, you always wanna look up their partnerships, because that tells you who they're sharing the data with. And you can also look up their funding. A lot of them are nonprofits, and
Yeah.
nonprofits have to post who they're getting their funding from.
So is this public and parochial schools?
Yeah, a lot of schools are doing it, cause, they're getting grants from a lot of these companies
Yeah.
to do it.
So, my kids are grown, I don't have kids in the Covington School District. How do I figure out what the heck they're doing?
What the Covington schools are doing,
I've gone to a couple of the school board meetings, they're talking about the graduate, they're talking about equity, they're talking about all that. So I know there's a lot of shit going on, but I don't have kids in the school.
so we had to do a records request, because they don't, I mean, I think they should just post those contracts publicly on their
Yeah,
website.
there's not
because
much
they're
on
all-
their website.
There's no
not much
transparency.
at all
You
on
can
their
do a
website.
FOIA request, there should be a FOIA application form on their website, and just fill it out asking for, you can be specific, just this year, or you can go back, we went back to 2020 when all this really started getting implemented, because I saw a ton of money from ESSA and ESSER funds going to tech infrastructure, and I'm like, what are they putting in our schools? But you can ask them specifically for all contracts with tech companies and programs being used in the school. I mean, they made us pay for 10 cents a page for the use records request, so just.
For the
yeah,
9,000?
When I'm sure all of it was digital to begin with.
It's just like the hospital I worked for.
See?
I'm telling you, because we
Yes.
had, when I was working at the hospital in
Yeah.
our billing system or whatever, we had dashboards, we had data mining, we had surveys, we had all this shit.
Yeah.
We had all this on our work computers.
So that's
Right.
the global healthcare, which switched over to the ICD-10, am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Codes.
ICD-10, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
those codes became, like, instead of just saying this person has this condition, it was like, this person was in this place,
Right.
and this happened with
Right.
this person, da-da-da-da-da, it tells the whole story.
Yep.
So I was watching a lady who owns a tech company, and she said she went into the terms and conditions at her doctor's when she was signing off on her forms, and she found that there were hundreds of global partnerships.
Don't
with-
ever electronically sign anything for medicine.
So-
Don't do their little, you ask to have a printed piece of paper and you do a hard
I should have known
signature.
that. I've
Do
signed all.
not sign their little pads.
You mean the thing
But
that they
that's,
say don't bill to build the insurance?
Yeah, because that signature can be transferred to every
Yeah,
document in the
it
Epic
does.
system.
so you're going down deeper on this side into this
Yep.
rabbit hole where it goes from a global economy to blockchain ID, digital citizenship, Internet of Bodies, which is heading to digital twinning, especially on the medical side is where they're pushing that, and which leads to biohacking through the biometrics. And
Yeah, this whole thing, I can apply it exactly to the
Epic
Epic healthcare system. I can apply it to all of it.
Stacie, can you explain FOIA, what it stands for the people who don't know?
Okay, so FOIA request is Freedom of Information Act. So you do have a right to ask the government for information if it's not found publicly already, especially in the contracts. You can get how much money they're spending on it, which we are blown away by some of these programs and how much money they've poured into it. Because I'm like, really they're already benefiting by just getting the data alone and then who they're sharing it with. So it seems like even more of a scam. The particular program that my daughter had originally been on was offered for free.
And the COVID money that these people got, schools,
Right.
Yeah.
healthcare,
Right.
is corrupt. It
Yeah.
just fed the corruption. That's all it did.
So if you wanna do a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request, you would go to their website and it'll be listed under FOIA. Cause they put everything down to initials anyway, to try and confuse you.
Yeah.
But then you would fill out the form. Everybody has their own specific form now. You can't just generally send in a records request. They want you to be really specific. If you want a certain time frame, certain records, just so they can narrow it down in the scope. The particular records we got, they ended up calling that parent in for a meeting, wanting to know why they wanted all this information. Yeah, they didn't want that at all.
So I think they started digging and they realized, oh, I didn't know we signed up for this.
Yeah,
So I think they were finding out what they really signed up for when they were going through all the documentation. And when they were asked if they knew what that was being implemented in the schools, they didn't even know.
Do you know how many people don't read any of the privacy agreement?
If your children want to play sports in the school system, there is a portion where they say that they can disclose your child's information, personal information. So if your child was in an accident on the field or something, where they could
Close their health
say, oh,
information.
they were suffering from depression, or they had whatever condition. And parents are signing off on this document and they're not even finding it's really small and it's tucked away inside in the middle of the document on page 2, I think it was.
right. Well, I mean, you have to read everything that they send home now. But you
Instead
don't
of
get to
just
sign it.
reading.
You don't have to sign anything. Like when I even get permission slips, I customize those. And I always write, under no circumstance should my child ever be taken to a St. Elizabeth physician. I say that every time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know it makes them mad because they're Matthew Turner's wife's an administrator there.
So they're rolling out vaccine clinics at the Boone County schools.
Yeah.
And then they have these little postcards at the front desk when you sign in and out. It's a front and back, and what they want to do is a telehealth initiative.
Yeah.
Where the parent, you're at work, you can call in and you're on the phone with the doctor.
But you're gonna
the
get a bill
nurse.
for that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I posted that on our Facebook page, and what it is it's a one-time consent by the parent. If your child is having an issue in school and they go to the nurse's station, based on what the nurse feels, they can schedule a teleconference with the doctor and make a very good faith effort to contact the parent, but the parent doesn't have to be present for the video. So now you have your child talking to a doctor with the school nurse there.
And they
making
treat and
decisions.
diagnose and
Right.
But
prescribe
do you know, if you go
medicines,
into the
yeah.
hospital at St. Elizabeth, that your personal care physician, your PCP, is not part of your care there?
Ties into Marion's bill that she has, Marion Prosper.
Yes.
She has a certificate of need bill right now.
Yes.
I think it's HB 312.
Mhm.
Call your representatives and tell them to vote for it.
The Portrait of a Graduate comes from an organization called portraitofagraduate.org. Again, you can go to their websites, their partnerships, their funding. That's Chan, Gates, Zuckerberg, Hewlett Packard. They are part of what's called Battelle for Kids, which is another nonprofit organization that the billionaires are dumping their money in. Overseeing Portrait of a Graduate and Battelle for Kids is what's called Ed Leader 21, which our superintendent just went to that seminar. Ed Leader 21 is ran by Ken K. He's the CEO. His background is he's a lobbyist and he worked for the Podestas. If that gives you any idea of how disgusting this is, who's running, they're running the transformation of education. This over here, the Chromebook, and then they use the Google services. We were able to uncover that Google now has 27 former CIA agents, 52 former FBI, 30 NSA, and 50 DHS put into Google now.
So what we can do is get our kids off the Chromebook.
Yeah.
For one, that's our number one goal.
I had a question about the Chromebook actually, because I assume on the Chromebook they're not just in schoolwork, right? They're also like on social media or on messaging apps.
Right. I
So
think it would depend on the age of the child, but they could do that.
If
Didn't
they
you have a
are.
kid that was already hacking it? They had
Flash
a
drives.
flash drive and they could hack it.
that's pretty cool. But if they are, well, any social media on where you log in with your name or your phone number, they're going to have that fingerprint of their laptop and of their IP address, whether they log in with their student email or not.
Right. So the rule in my house with my child is that there are no accounts in his name with this information. So if you kind of stick with that and they log into something, I assume it's a fake account, or like some of these other kids are logging in to the teacher's account. Somehow they're able to hack that. There was a kid in my son's class that got in trouble for changing all the teacher's Google slides.
I love it. I think this is good.
Literally, his first day of school, the teacher gave everyone a Chromebook. And this is without signing off on anything. It was the first day of school. And she said, your first assignment is to create Google Slides all about me. So tell us all about yourself in these Google Slides. And my son,
That is mine.
Yes.
Yes.
All
Right.
mine in the computer.
Right.
so my son just said, my mom's not gonna like that. I'll be happy to do it on paper for you.
I've not met
Because
your
they
kids, but
have not even
it's-
sent the paper home yet for me to sign and give them consent to even do that. So, I mean, they're bypassing parental consent. So this form, you can just make your own, put it in your own words, or just send it the first day of school, have that conversation with the principal. The more of us that step up and say, we don't want this, they have to create a new paradigm. They can't go forward with this, the more that the parents are saying no to it.
People tend to think that this is happening only
In the
where there's,
city.
in the big cities.
It's not.
And it's not, and that's what it's kind of disturbing. My daughter is 12 years old, she's in 7th grade, and we're seeing a lot of this, and,
Yes.
and it infiltrated the schools, and it followed all of the money that came in
It's
post-COVID.
because Jason Glass was planning to implement this. So I sat on a school curriculum assessment accountability council for the state, of which Andy Bashir dismantled everybody who'd been put on there and created his own at this point in time. But Jason Glass would get on and said he was building back education better, build back better education is what he would say. And he would talk about the agenda and what they were rolling out. What was strange to me is how fast I saw it in the schools. Like he was talking about this SEL, boom, it was in the school the next day. And I'm like, how are they getting this through so fast? So that's what prompted us to start digging into his background and what was going on. And that's where that portrait of a graduate came up, where they're going to use dashboards then to profile our kids. And that's the push for pre-K and full day kindergarten. These play tables even have sensors in them. They're taking data from these little kids just while they're playing
That's why they
and
want to
applying predictive analytics.
Save the children.